Hi, it's Dave Diegelman with Equity Real Estate for our June 2026 market report for Southern Utah. Let's do the numbers. So first of all, let's look at the total number of listings that have sold. So right now we are at 428. Last year at the end of July, we were at 476. Now, normally this goes up from this time, but it's actually decreased. So we're going to talk about that throughout this. The sold median sales price right now, we're at $520,000. Last year at the end of July, we were at $530,000. And this could be reflective of prices dropping slightly, because I think we've had probably an 8 to 10% price drop in the last couple of months. Hard to tell, but that's what it kind of looks like. Absorption rate in months. This is how many months of inventory that we have. Right now we have 5.92 months of inventory. Last year, at the end of July, we had 5.63. So relatively stable in the absorption rate. Sold to list ratio. This looks like a big increase, but it's 96.2% versus last year at 95.7%. So not a whole lot of difference, but I will tell you the properties that are selling tend to be the ones that are priced right off the get-go, and you're going to see this on the days of the market coming up. So days on the market has come down to 70.4. Last year it was at 81.6. At our height, which was in February, it was at 98.2. One of the things that I'm seeing is majority of the properties that are selling within the first 30 days if they're properly priced, whereas the other inventory that got put on too high is kind of chasing the market down. And as I mentioned, I think we've had about probably an 8 to 10% decrease overall in market prices over the last few months. So that's reflective of what is selling. Price volume, this is the sold sales volume in the millions. So we closed out last month at 270 million and some change. Last year at the end of July, it was 315 million and some change. That's a big difference, and we will talk about that a little bit further. But again, I think we're on a slightly declining market. So buyers, you have a lot more options right now. Let's take a look at the price categories. So first of all, the biggest category we have is our 500 to 749, and that is at a minus 0.4%. So just about the same as last year. The next area we have is 350 to 399, and that's down by 11% this year over last. And then we go into the 400 to 449. We're down slightly on that this year over last. And then we go into the 750 to a million, and that one is up by 10%. And the 1 to 2 million is up by 14%, and the 2 to 3 million is up by 200%. Now, I will say in the 2 to 3 million, we don't have huge numbers, so we're comparing this year's sales of 36 versus 12 last year. And that's a trend that we've been looking at over the last several years. So it's interesting to see that the luxury market here is very stable and in fact growing in the St. George area. If we take a look at the active listings on the market, those numbers somewhat parallel what we have up above. The biggest category we have, again, is the 500 to 749. And then it actually goes into the 750 to a million, and then a million to 2 million. And interestingly enough, it's the 2 to 3 million dollar area. Now, I mention this every month that we have an online version that goes into a lot more detail than what I go through in this brief video. And you can find that at utah.dreamhomes.com, utdreamhomes.com. Under the blog section, you'll see it right there. And we do have the market summary graphs on there for you to look at. And also the dollar categories of listings that we just talked about. Now, this month on the residential search, I always, when I open up my MLS, paste what I see at the beginning of the month. And we had to change our criteria because over the last about year and a half, 2 years, we've seen almost a 25% increase in our MLS, where people from up north are posting their listings on our Washington County MLS. So this wasn't that much of a problem before, so I used to just open it up with all the listings Now I'm filtering it for just the greater Washington County area. So I explain what's going on with that. Right now we're at 1,986. If we were to look at the same criteria I used before, it was almost at 2,600. So it just shows you how many people from northern Utah are using our MLS to post, for example, Park City listings. Interest rates. So interest rates jumped. They're between 6.5 and 6.75%. So we're going to see where that goes. So we have some articles that address that in our newsworthy section. So the first one is interest rate dilemma. So I want to give you a slightly different way of looking at it. We go through a pretty deep dive on what interest rate means short-term and long-term, and what are the creative ways of looking at that. And then inventory is finally rising. So why aren't buyers happier? And this goes into a nationwide look and also just from our regional look at what is happening. So a lot of buyers are on the fence right now, and we kind of do a deep dive into that. And then we also look at the 5 biggest buying myths in southern Utah. Oftentimes I'll hear from clients that, they feel like they need, for example, 20% down to buy a house. Well, they don't. In fact, sometimes buyers can buy a home with less down payment than it is to get into a new home rental. So we kind of explore that. This year we're doing monthly webinars, and it's always on the second Wednesday of each month at 1 o'clock. And this year we're looking at selling with issues. Some homes have issues, radon, meth, mold inspections, but stigmatized properties. That's what we're going to do, kind of a deep dive in with one of our local experts. So that'll be the second Wednesday of this month at 1 p.m. You can click on the link there to get the Zoom meeting, and you can either do it live and ask questions, or you can text or email me questions prior to it, and we will get to them. So again, if you want to see the full market report, just go to utdreamhomes.com, look under the blog section, and that will have the links for the market report. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. May God richly bless you. And if you have any questions about real estate, give me a call, 435-703-4041.